traditional music, with lighthearted undertones whose origins are from a faraway land. Blow after blow you remain standing, remembering what you're here for, staving off death's calm embrace for just one more bout, trained by an old champion you helped reform, but only being able to stay to see it partially through. Chief's story from Megalobox is some of the heaviest hitting moments I've watched in a while. His will to push on, to make he and his people's dream come true. The hole he leaves can never truly be filled. The animation was spot on, every blow traded having its own unique weight to carry for each fighter. The characters were complex and varied, but it's tied together by one narrative through line, the music. Mabanua returns from Season 1, and completely changes the tone and effect of the soundtrack. The use of percussion, drums, and how they're mixed with the rough boom-bap futuristic rhythms, styles, and overall sound of Season 1 makes every scene its own spotlight center stage moment. Some tracks were fast, electric, and carry hype on their shoulders from the second they start. Others were slow, methodical, and played to the strengths of the narrative being told. Before I continue, let me catch you up. Following the events of Season 1, the main character Joe has become a drug addict, fighting in out-of-the-city rings under the name Nomad. After causing so much pain preceding and following his last official fight as Gearless Joe, he uses drugs to avoid the pain and trauma that he otherwise would be drowning in, to make ends meet, and being unable to avoid his obsession with being in the ring, he dons his old Megalobox gear, now in a similar spot as the beginning of Season 1. Megaloboxing is a form of boxing, where people use gear attached to their torso and arms to enhance their combat ability. But the obvious issue is how dangerous this sport is to those who compete. Eventually he gets pitted against Chief, a very different fighter than he's used to. Chief's heavy, slower due to his old age, but cunning, and able to throw his opponents off their game. Joe ends up winning, but realizes he's back in the loop from Season 1. The fight was rigged and Chief lost on purpose. He screams out in anger, and the scene cuts with a still frame of his rage. The song playing in the background as the two fight is called Conflict, and it makes every miss, hit, and pivot so tactile, like I'm right there in the action. It gives vibes of an all-out brawl, akin to Joe's animalistic style of fighting while off his meds. But I'm not here to talk about this show's entire soundtrack, but trust me, this could be an entire series just off this season alone. I'm here to talk about one moment, one musical scene, where everything comes together for Chief as a character. Chief is an immigrant, like the rest of those in his community named Casa, and they have been living on land that for a while they had been allowed to stay on, because of a deal with the previous owner. To make ends meet, he has been boxing in smaller rings doing rigged fights, but now is joining a larger tournament, so they can make enough money to buy the land, otherwise they'll be kicked out by a rich racist investor. In the final fight he is against Mamia, who is backed by the investor, and he uses underhanded tactics to try and win. He hits him again and again in the back of the head, and pulls out any verbal attack he can to throw him off. But in the end, Chief wins. But as the viewer, even with the music swelling, we know he's now on borrowed time. He's old. Megaloboxing is a dangerous sport, and getting hit like that with the power of their gear isn't something you can shake off. But I think even Chief knew, when that first big hit to the back of the head landed, that he was a dead man walking. Before the round where he strikes the final blow, his vision going hazy, he asks Joe if he was shining like him when he became the Megalobox champion. Chief was in the city and saw it happen on the big screen. Instead of reaching for glory, he was inspired that day to fight for his people, to fight for his dream. After he wins the fight, they're all celebrating. In the background, the track playing is called Cheerful, and while it's a beautiful tone setter, what makes it so heavy and perfect is how it fits into this scene, and how it serves to close a song Chief sings earlier in the story. Joe first meets Chief in a bar, where he's singing and playing his guitar. The song he's playing is called the Hummingbird song, or the Spanish name which is on screen because I would butcher it if I try to pronounce it. The song is about a desert traveler, who after being alone for so long wants to die, but just before he can faint, a hummingbird begins to sing. The song invigorated him. It made him feel the love that felt so lost to him. But even though he has regained his strength to keep going, the song ends with the hummingbird flying away, to never come back. Chief describes the hummingbird as a symbol of home, a reminder that you always have somewhere to go back to. In this story, Joe was the traveler, and Chief was the hummingbird. The song Cheerful, while it does have a happy mood to it, it's not over the top. It's contained. It fits a calmer mood. It's almost as if the song fits a dual role of bringing happiness and melancholy. The type of song you would hear at the end of a bittersweet movie. Chief and Joe sit with everyone enjoying the festivities, while the song that brings both of those emotions plays. You see Chief, giving Marla the money he's been saving, claiming he's always hated doing paperwork. But from what we've seen, that's not why he's doing it. While they sit together, Chief says it's all thanks to Joe that he won. Joe disagrees, saying he won because of his belief in himself. But then Chief's response hits at the core idea of what his story's supposed to portray. He says dreams change people, not just the dreamer, but it pulls in everyone else around them to change too. He ends it by saying,
Joe, 俺はこれからもあんたが見せてくれた夢の続きを見続ける。だからあんたも俺との約束を果たしてほしい。
When the party dies down, Joe is walking Chief back to his truck, and Chief tells him he's scared to fall asleep, following it up by saying he's afraid this will all be a dream. But this is where his borrowed time runs out. He gives Joe a big hug, and tells him that he hopes to fight in the ring with him for real someday. The next morning, he doesn't wake up, likely dying because of a severe concussion. He is mourned, and Joe leaves, intending to keep his promise of not running from his past anymore. The Nomad and the Hummingbird is an important piece of symbolism in this story. One person helps someone who is on the brink, but at the cost of themselves. Yet the Hummingbird also symbolizes home. Maybe if you lose sight of home, you lose a core part of yourself, to have a center to gain strength from mentally. Joe's journey could only continue if someone reached out to pull him out of that darkness, and Chief needed someone who could be in his corner to help him win that tournament. The music in Megalo Box, while on the surface may seem like simple background filler that sounds cool, it actually serves so many different purposes for the narrative. The way the villains and city folk have a more futuristic soundtrack, while the underdogs have more acoustic tracks, creates a dynamic between their different vibes. Fights are a great example, as the two themes clash into one brawl for supremacy in the song Conflict. It was hard to limit myself to just one, because every moment of this story is one musical scene. But hopefully I've given you a taste of what this story has to offer. If you thought the music here was powerful and enjoyed the video, check out the others in the One Musical Scene playlist. And while you're at it, subscribe and check out some other videos on my channel. I've made other videos covering the various ideas from Megalobox Season 2 and many different kinds of video essays. And I hope to see you next time.